was actually called Project Wumpus, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was called the Wumpus for a really long time because he was originally a creature.
Hey guys, now you may remember from a while back at TwitchCon when the Arenanet streams were still points of interest, or was that when Guild Chat first started that name? In any case, you may remember from back then there was one particular stream amongst the many that Arenanet did, which involved something called Kit the Traveler. This was when Ruby and Lindsay Murdoch, a long-standing developer at Arenanet, both pulled on a member of the Guild Wars 2 community who had been hosting a certain type of event in the game. That event was known as Kit the Traveler, and it's based on a feature that actually existed in GW1 and was one of the better features that they ever had in the game. So Arenanet went forward, they did this stream, they talked a little bit about it, and talked about kind of the Guild Wars 2 version that's being ran by this community member, and it's still going on to this day. Actually, back around Halloween, yours truly did a story for this community event, which was a lot of fun. I wanted to do another one today, but also to talk to you guys a little bit about how this thing's going, what it's based off of from the first game, some of the interesting things that were mentioned on the stream, and as well, a little bit of trivia about me too. Basically, here's the idea. Back in Guild Wars 1, in the later years, once they'd actually started making the sequel, I guess the devs kind of ended up having to play this sort of game of, okay, how the hell do we keep people engaged and actively playing GW1 even though there's very little real content going in? What do we do? And this was kind of one of the first systems that we ever saw in this franchise that was almost like on a schedule, right? Like was time-gated. But it was done very well in such a way that I believe most players won't have recognized this was essentially just time-gated content. And the idea was that around the world, what would happen is across all of the big explorable maps, and don't forget, GW1 was a very big game with a lot of places you could explore and find and hidden little areas. Around the maps, there would be an NPC in a single place every week known as Nicholas the Traveler. And he was kind of a cool character who had a Doliac that would run around with him. And every week he would move to a different hidden location somewhere in Tyria. If you could find him, each week he'd be offering you some gifts, but the only way to get those gifts was also to give him a unique item that also changed each week, and the item was usually related to whatever he was doing on the map. So for example, one week you log in, and you find out that Nicholas the Traveler's moved. Nobody knows where he's gone yet. There was no, like, mining to figure it out early or whatever. And everybody would run off and explore and try and figure it out. Eventually, you find him. He's somewhere on the Fire Island chain. And on the Fire Island chain, he says, hey, I'm here for X reason, Y reason, Z reason. Gives you an interesting little story about it. And basically he says, right, look, I'm researching Hydras. Can you kill some Hydra for me that also happen to be found on the Fire Island chain? And if you do it, I'll give you these cool items. Especially when the system was first added, you found that players were really hyped about those items because those were skins that you could never get anywhere else. You could only get, I believe it was 5 per week. And there were also a bunch of really powerful consumables and other fun things that came out of like these RNG gifts that he'd give you. So it was thrilling to not only be the first one to find Nicholas and get some of those earliest gifts to be able to sell some of the stuff as early as possible, but also once you finally found him, even for many weeks in the future, you'd continue wanting to get those gifts because they were powerful utility, or there was a slight chance you'd get some crazy weapon everybody was hyped over, like the Vampiric Dragon Sword. So it was a really well designed, really well implemented system, and there were a lot of different places that Nick could be. Every time there was a little bit more to his story. So, quite literally, as the years went by, you'd learn more about this character and you'd get conditioned to love this character. And that's why a lot of people remember him fondly, even though, really, he was a bit of a late addition. As was explained on Guild Chat quite recently, that I opened this video talking about, they kind of said that actually he was designed while they were working on Guild Wars 2. He was designed basically on the weekends and implemented through weekend work while other systems were being made for the sequel. And really, in terms of all things, this is one of the last things that we saw go into Guild Wars 1. But it was that good, that impactful, that people really remember it. This system has had quite the legacy. Actually, on the stream, I was quite interested to hear when the devs talked about the fact apparently some concept art was made of Nicholas and Professor Yackington, his Doliac pet, and that one year Arenanet had sent out Christmas cards to people in the community, and that was the concept art on them.
Little white baby Yackington, and that was a Christmas card.
It was. We used it for the Christmas card.
If you got a holiday card from Arenanet that year, you had the little white baby Yackington
So
and the little Mick all cuddled up, and that was Katie's art.
You guys might not realize this, but they do send out cards each year. I did, back as a Guild Wars 1 player, actually get one of those cards. I also had one this year as well in 2015. That's what you guys can see in the background right now. And I just ran to my drawer here and that. I was like, oh, did I get one of the cool ones with Nicholas and Professor Yackington? Turns out I didn't. I think this was actually the first year of Guild Wars 2, 2012. So that was a little disappointing, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that I prefer my one of this Norn. I think that's supposed to be Anchar looking in with the Asura in the middle. So that was the Nicholas the Traveller system. We've heard nothing about it coming properly into Guild Wars 2. We see their graves, of course, in Ebonhawk. But beyond that, I guess, enter Pixie on the forums, who took it upon herself, this is the person you can see on stream, to actually start running this event in Guild Wars 2 through player-ran stuff. So the system in the end is very similar. You mail the account in question the items that they're asking for specific to that time, and in return you get mailed back gifts, just like Nicholas the Traveller did. And each time it runs, there's a cool little extra story, just like before. He'd give you some background on where he was or why he was where he was. The same thing goes here, and that's what I did back in Halloween. That's what appeared on my second channel. But how about this time? I wanted to talk, put a little bit more of a spotlight on it because it was so fun before, and give you guys that background. So this is basically a way of letting you know that the event's running at the moment. I've wanted to do more community-based stuff for a while, and so yeah, let's just jump straight in. If anything, enjoy the story. It's a fine, sunny day. Kit is relaxing in the sun in Lion's Arch. Mr. Sprinkles saunters up to Kit with a package in his mouth and drops it next to Kit with a thud. Kit picks it up and opens the package. There's a letter inside, along with some sort of carving. Kit examines the carving first with a perplexed look on her face. It looks like some sort of potato? She looks up to see Mr. Sprinkle staring intently at the carving. She tosses it into the air, and Mr. Sprinkle catches it and begins to play with it. The letter itself is from an individual who calls herself simply Liss. She's planning an expedition into the ruins of Or to closely examine the remains of Zaitan and possibly recover some lost artifacts. On top of quite a bit of gold offered, Kit can choose to keep an artifact if any are found. Things have been rather slow lately, and Kit was getting the itch for adventure. The letter says to meet Liss on the outskirts of the ruins so they may safely travel through together. Kit quickly packs her gear and loads up Sprinkle with supplies. Mr. Sprinkle, however, is too busy with his new toy to care. Their destination is a straight shot south through Bloodtide Coast and Sparkfly Fen to finally arrive at Fort Trinity. The trek is, thankfully, rather fast, with only a few monsters harassing Kit and Mr. Sprinkle. They made good time and arrived shortly after Liss did. They turned to meet her near the south entrance. As it so happens, she was preparing to depart just as Kit got her attention. "Are you Liss?" Kit asks. Liss turns around and adjusts her travel pack. "Oh, you came," she says. "I was wondering if my pack..." Liss trails off when she sees Mr. Sprinkle chewing on something. Mr. Sprinkle notices Liss staring at him and drops what he's chewing on. "Hey, that wasn't for you," Liss says, with Mr. Sprinkle quickly snatching the carving back up and resuming to chew on it. "Sorry, he got it way before I did," Kit says, and Liss sighs. "Don't worry about it. I presume you came because you took me up on my offer?" "That's right." Kit looks around, confused. "Where's the rest of your team?" Well, it's just you and me, Kit. I would have hired other mercenaries, but most either backed down or wanted way too much money. But I think having the greatest swordsman in all of Tyria by my side more than makes up for it." Mr. Sprinkle gives a short huff, content with chewing on his carving. They begin their travels through the ruins. "I know your letter said you hope to exhume some artifacts, but what makes you think you'll find something that nobody else has seen before?" Kit asks. "Well, Zaitan consumed magical artifacts to increase his power. I believe that some of those artifacts may not have been completely destroyed and could still exist within his body. Most everyone is too afraid to approach since, even in death, his gigantic body is still so intimidating." Liss sticks out his arm to halt Kit. A group of Risen are shambling ahead. "Ready to earn your pay?" In response, Kit draws her sword. The Risen came at them surprisingly fast. Their speed caught them slightly off guard, but Kit and Liss were more than prepared. Kit charged the first Risen, dodging its lazy swipe and slashing at its legs. The Risen's legs buckled, and Kit finishes it off with a powerful downward swipe. Meanwhile, Liz is holding her own against two Risen with swords. Her small stature gives her an advantage against these slow brutes. She ducks under their high swipes and counterattacks with blasts of fire, quickly dispatching them. Mr. Sprinkle accidentally drops his carving, and it rolls into a crowd of Risen. Mr. Sprinkle charges forward, determined to get his chew toy back. In his attempts to recover his toy, he balls through the Risen standing in the way, almost subconsciously, and finally recovers the beloved toy. With the Risen dispatched, the party continue their trek. Without direction, most Risen simply wander aimlessly. There are some more powerful Risen, but Liz and Kit did their best to avoid any more confrontation until they reached Zaitan's resting place. Only a few weak Risen stood in their path the remainder of the way, and finally, there it was. Zaitan, reduced to a massive husk of his former self, being slowly consumed by the earth. A curious sight caught Liz's attention. Something near Zaitan's head stood surrounded by Risen. A wraith patrols the area around them. They sneak closer to get a better look, but Mr. Sprinkle snaps a dry twig, accidentally alerting the Risen. Guttural howls fill the air as Risen advance towards them. The wraith is upon them. Kit swings and connects, but her sword passes right through and chills her hand to the bone. It teleports behind her and poises to strike, eager to suck the life out of its foe. A powerful gust of air throws the wraith back, and Liz finishes it off with a blast of lightning. Mr. Sprinkle guards Kit while Liz warms her hand up. Mr. Sprinkle slams through two Risen who dared to get close, splintering bone and crushing their bodies. A Risen slips around Mr. Sprinkle to get at Kit as she recovers, but she's already standing with sword in hand. The Risen slashes at Kit's gut. She jumps back, parries, and the sword flies harmlessly by her. The Risen stumbles, Kit kicks it out and launches it backwards. It suddenly bursts into flames from Liz's fireball. A quick, heavy stomping draws everyone's attention. A flesh golem is charging straight towards them, ready to bull them over. Mr. Sprinkle meets the golem's charge head on. Nobody will ever hurt his friends as long as he can stand in the way. A roar escapes Mr. Sprinkle as he slams into the golem. He tucks his head low and seemingly runs straight through it, launching it above and over his head. It lands in front of Kiss and Liz, and they finish it off with a hail of sword and fire. Curious, however, as this golem was not a Risen, but a necromancer minion. Kit spots a robed figure frantically running away from Zaitan's skull. Kit quickly pulls the wooden carving from Mr. Sprinkles' mouth and launches it. The wooden carving sails through the air and strikes the robed figure on the back of the head. Mr. Sprinkle is on top of it immediately, first scooping up his beloved toy, then pinning the robed figure down with his massive hoof. Kit and Liz catch up to Mr. Sprinkle and remove the hood of this mysterious figure. A frail old man was revealed as their necromancer, complaining loudly about the brute standing on top of him. "What are you doing here?" Liz demanded. The old man struggles to free himself. "Zaitan lives, and I was to usher him back into this world. I would have gotten away with it if it weren't for you meddling kids." Kit glances at the large corpse behind her. Zaitan is dead. Very dead. "You're a fool, like all the rest. Do you seriously think these Risen would still exist if Zaitan was not here to command them? Zaitan cannot be killed. He is death incarnate. He is merely in a dormant state, slowly regaining his power until he can once again challenge this Kit stuffs a sock in his mouth, tired of his ramblings. "What do we do with him?" Kit asks. Liz sighs. "We'll have to cut this expedition short and turn him into the nearest authorities. Let's tie him up and head back." Kit and Liz tie up the old necromancer and throw him on Mr. Sprinkle's back. Upon their arrival at Fort Trinity, they turn the old man over to the guards, who place him in a locked cell. Liz tosses Kit a pouch of coins. "Thanks for your help, Kit. I'll have to reschedule this trip. I hope you'll be available again for my next adventure." "Count on it. Besides, you owe me an artifact of my own." The captain of the guard approaches. His men are holding the necromancer behind him. "You two!" Kit and Liz glance at each other. "We can't hold this man here. Much of our hold was destroyed in a recent attack." "We can't risk him getting away during travel. Is there any other place you can keep him?" Kit asks. The captain shakes his head. "Unfortunately, no. I don't have the men to spare to keep watch on him." Liz pipes in. "What if we helped build a new one? Could you hold him then?" The captain seems perplexed. "Well, I suppose we could then, but we don't have any resources to spare." Leave that to us, Liz says. Kit here can get anything. The captain eyes Kit, and she manages a meek smile. Fine, he says, but make it quick. Every minute we waste watching him could be time manning out defenses. Afterwards, the captain leaves, and Kit turns to Liz. Thanks for volunteering me. No problem, Liz smirks. Well, I gotta get going and mull over my findings here. Looks like you have work to do. Kit stares at Liz as she walks off. Mr. Sprinkles huffs. I agree, Mr. Sprinkles. Well, I guess we'd better get to work. Adventurers! Kit and Mr. Sprinkle need help building a new prison to hold on to this nefarious necromancer. They don't have much time, so wood planks will have to do until he can be picked up. 5 wood planks should be enough to build that evil necromancer a new home. And so to participate, guys, all you have to do is mail 5 wood planks, I guess of any tier that you like, to Kit the Traveller, and you'll get some mysterious cool gifts back. And that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.